Yeah, this week I started because a request of one of the clients in Rainmakers. She goes, I'm having problems with systems. I go, systems as far as, I listed like 15 different ones. She goes, yeah, that's it. I said, okay, maybe it's time we just did a review of systems. Every day I could get on there and I can do a system. This way people would have a library in the vault. So if you ever have to go back and review one, it's pretty neat because I've been doing this for an awful lot of years. So yes, I kind of just gave out the plan for black belt. You know, what's your system to get your students from white belt to black belt? How long do you want it to take? How many people are passing? So I kind of went over that. And I felt that gave some good information. And then there's all subsystems under that. So, you know, I mentioned, you know, stripe testing, but there has to be a system for stripe testing, which I said, okay, that's pretty easy. You know, give them a stripe a month and they're good to go. And when I started writing out the details, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than just having a time and giving you a stripe, but it's a whole actual system to do that. So I made some notes today. I'm going to share my screen with you. So it's stripes, motivation and quality control. When we were talking yesterday, I was saying the journey from white to black belt is a pretty long time. It could be 3 years. It could be 5 years. If you're a jiu-jitsu player, it could be 10 years. Stripes kind of put those goals closer together. I mentioned yesterday it's really important for kids, but it's also really important for adults. Everyone needs some type of motivation. Paul Garcia and I, when we did instructor colleges, we would say, okay, imagine your class and your instructor's out there, kick, 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 kick. He's just barking out kicks. He goes faster, faster. As a student, I don't care if you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced student, you're constantly thinking to yourself, how am I doing? That's why it's so important that we give feedback to students. I mean, we can't just become a professional number counter and count to 10 over and over. It's really important that we give feedback. Well, feedback in class is important, but feedback in stripe testing is really showing people their progress. And motivation and progress go hand in hand. No one really enjoys doing something they don't like to do or they're not good at. But if you're good at it, all of a sudden, okay, now I've got a little more motivation to try again. We start talking about cycling. Okay, attendance. If people have strong attendance, they will see progress. If they have progress, they're going to have high interest, and then we just want to repeat that monthly. So that's like your directions on a bottle of shampoo. You know, twice a week, you're going to see progress, and you're going to have high interest. If you have high interest, you're going to have more attendance. You're going to see more progress. Your interest goes up. So this is your spiral. So this attendance, progress, high interest is simplifying what we do on stripe testing. So monthly steps between graduations. Now, I talked yesterday, depending on your system, the way you do things, there's so many months between belts. I think it's pretty much standard between a lot of schools. I know ATA does every 2 months. I think a lot of schools do every 3 months. Some schools, well, you know, they do 3 months in the first 2 years and they go 6 months after that. But stripes are just monthly steps between graduations. So if I have, it takes 3 months to get my yellow belt, I have 3 stripes. After I got my 3 stripes, now I deserve to go to graduation. So the stripes are really showing me as a student that I'm learning at the required rate for the school. So everything should be on time as far as getting my belts and my progress towards black belt. When you do stripe testing, one of the things I think is really important that it's the same time each month. I've talked to school owners that have tried to explain to me their system. They say they do it every 5 weeks. I go, so it's the first week of 1 month, second week of, yeah, that's too confusing. For my students, I'm going to tell them they're going to start learning something at the beginning of the month. Towards the end of the month, we're going to see how they're doing, and that's how they earn their stripe test. To me, that's logical. So it's logical to do it the last week because it shows you what you accomplished throughout the month. Now, along with just a time limit, you have to have attendance. I think it's really important the students come at least twice a week. So after 8 classes, an 8 class would be a requirement for attendance. So if someone can't just come to my school for a couple times and then come at the end of the month, take stripe testing and be part of the stripe test graduation. Because going back to this other one, I noticed that attendance, at least a progress leads to high attention or high interest. So it's really important that we make sure students have attendance. There has to be a reason to be there. You have to be here twice a week, not only to get good, but to earn your stripe tests. Students and parents need to understand your expectations. In other words, are you looking for memorization? Are you looking for performance? I know some schools, I was talking to a school owner from Washington yesterday, his system has quite a few hard forms, and so he's really looking that the kids have to memorize the forms. He goes, it takes a lot to memorize his forms. So he has to explain that to the parents. What we're looking for as your student or your child or you has to memorize from this material to this material to pass your stripe test. I always looked for performance. So performance is my indicator. Every time you take a stripe test, you should show some improvement. If it takes me 12 belts, 3 months per belt, 36 months, each month I'm improving. After 36 months, I've improved quite a bit. So I'm really looking for performance, increased in performance. But depending on what you teach or how you teach, it's going to be one of those 2 things. So example, memorization. Okay, now my thing is, okay, I want the kids to memorize so many techniques in so many forms. I may divide my requirements into 3 segments. So each month, they're learning 1/3 of that segment. Now, in each month, week 1, they're learning half of the requirements. Week 2, they're learning the second half of the requirements. Week 3, I review. In week 4 is stripe test. And then the next month, okay, they have to learn this much. Well, they're going to learn half of it on the first week, half of it on the second week. We're going to review, and then we're going to do a stripe test. So that would be if your requirements are memorization. I used to say my requirements are performance. So on month 1, I would show all the material for the 3 months, all the material for 3 months. And at the end of the month for stripe testing, after month 1, they have to be able to follow the numbers. So if I had a self-defense that learned and it was a back fist, reverse punch, round kick, I would say 1, 2, 3. If they could do back fist, reverse punch, round kick, well, they can follow my lead. That's all I'm looking for in I keep saying week, I'm sorry. In month 1. Month 2, I want them to be doing it on their own. So I say, do your self-defense techniques. They go back fist, reverse punch, kick, and they can do the technique. Or if I'm doing a form and the form has 10 moves, maybe they have to do segment 1. So if I say segment 1, they have to do the first 5 moves. I do segment 2, they do the next 5 moves. But again, in this cycle of performance, month 1, they can follow me. Month 2, they can do it on their own. What I'm looking for in month 3, now they can do it with the qualities of a champion. So if we're getting that self-defense technique again, first month I go 1, 2, 3. They can follow directions, 1, 2, 3. Month 2, I say go, and they just do 1, 2, 3 on their own. Month 3, when we're getting ready for stripe test, they're going to do 1, 2, 3 with the qualities of a champion. Qualities of a champion are power, speed, accuracy, focus, and intensity. That's my gauge. If they can do that, now they're a high-performing student. I really like this because I think it's the easiest way to get lots of repetition. Because when I teach everything the first month, they can do it on the second month. They have 3 months to get the material down. Kids can get material down in 3 months. When you're breaking up into just memorization, well, some of the material they're going to be testing on, they've only had for 1 month. And that's kind of tough to ask for anyone, kid, adult, anything. So if you ask me which did I perform I prefer, it is performance. That makes sense, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know quite a few people talk to me and they say, yeah, I understand rotating curriculum. I understand how you're doing stripe test. My students just have too much to learn. They can't memorize it all. I go, okay, give them more time. Put your belts farther apart or teach them differently. I remember talking to Ed Parker back in the 90s when I really started sharing this type of philosophy. And I go, Mr. Parker, when you came up with this system, were you thinking of doing martial arts for kids? He goes, nope, not at all. I was a martial artist. We're creating a system of self-defense for adults. That was my goal. Okay, so now that kids are being attracted to the martial arts, do I have any latitude to change? Because we're asking kids to memorize a lot and do a lot of stuff that kids just aren't ready for. And he gave me the kind of go ahead to do that. That's where I started just having a different approach to the material. Instead of having to do 2 forms and 24 self-defense techniques per belt, well, we cut it down. They did 1 form and they did 3 to 5 self-defense techniques. But the important thing is I retain my students, so eventually they're going to get the whole thing. The worst thing that could happen is some kid just gets started in martial arts and quits. So don't let your past thinking of how things used to be dictate what you think is right for kids. I think longevity. I know what martial arts can do for a child in the long term. If they quit on month 1, 2, or 3 because they get frustrated and they can't memorize it all, they're not going to see all the wonderful benefits. I'd rather have them take 6 years to learn all this stuff, stick with it, and then be a person who lives martial arts lifestyle.
Is there a certain way that you convey these, like the performance expectations to the kids?
Yes. When I'm doing my classes, each week there's a number that I have on a piece of paper on the mirrors. It'll say week 4. Okay, guys, it's 4 weeks of stripe testing. You know what that means? We're going to start learning the new material for the cycle. At the end of this month, when you take your stripe test, you have to be able to follow my numbers. So we're going to be doing this. It has 10 moves in it. I'm going to say, well, yeah, they know exactly what they have to do. Exactly. Okay.
So write it out or have it out and clear right in front of everybody. This is what we got to do.
I would verbalize that. I have the thing in the mirror because the number on the mirror, because I want to make sure that they know exactly when stripe testing is, and I want them to have a reason to come to class. Guys, number 2, that means it's only 2 weeks of stripe testing. We're going to review this week. Next week it'll be stripe testing. It's really important that you come twice this week and twice next week because you have to have the required classes. So that number in the mirror is just a reminder from myself and all the instructors that we talk to the kids, it's this much left to stripe testing, this what's expected out of you. The next requirement is the rate classes. This is a tough one. You can tell the kids to come to twice a week. Then you're going to have a child who's sick, a parent whose car breaks down, they can't take them for a whole week. And so this one's a tough one, but it's a requirement. What we're really looking for is going back to the very first slide. If kids come to class, they're going to get better. If they get better, they have higher interest. So we have to monitor the attendance. And you also have to have a recovery system in place. So now I'm getting towards the end of the month, and I have a student who only has 4 classes. They're looking pretty good. They're going to want to pass a stripe test. How do I let them accomplish that? What's my recovery? Well, 1, they can take private classes. So if they want to buy private classes for each private class they have, I'm going to let that count as at least 3 regular classes. I do charge for these private classes. A lot of parents really want their kids to look good in stripe testing. It's really important because they want their kids not only to learn martial arts, but they want to really excel at martial arts. So you have a certain amount of parents who will be glad to pay for private classes. For parents that don't want to pay for private classes, we have a high-intensity training class the 3rd Saturday of every month. High intensity is almost a open mat class where I have open mat for an hour, could be for 90 minutes. If kids are missing classes, parents drop them off. They come to the Saturday HIT class. I have instructors on the floor. I have SWAT team members on the floor, leadership members. They get some extra help, and that counts as their makeup. So the ideal thing is to come to class. Stuff happens. The parents get in a car accident, or the parents are working overtime. They can't make it. Well, what's the recovery? Well, they can do private classes, or they can do a high intensity. If they don't do that, then the child won't be able to pass the strike test. So I want to make sure everyone's accountable. Now, do I bend the rules a little? Yeah, possibly. I have an A student. He misses one class, maybe 2 classes. I'll let him slide by. But if someone's missed more than 2 classes, I want to make sure he takes private or Saturday classes. And parents don't really monitor every kid's class in attendance. I mean, that's something you monitor. If you don't have a recovery system, kids will take advantage. I learned this when I was doing this system, putting everything together. I had a child psychiatrist helping me. Her name was Anita Fischler. And she said, it's really important that kids only get what they earn. So she started noticing in my class, and said, you have a problem with some of your upper belts. I go, why? They go, they know you love them. And they know all of a sudden if they miss a couple classes, you're probably going to still give them their belt. She says, you got to change that. She goes, only give kids what they earn. If you really want to build self-confidence and self-esteem in kids, don't let them slide by in thinking that, now I can get away with this. So it's really important that if you do have systems in place, you do adhere to those systems as much as you can. So we go through the 3 weeks of the month. Now it's strike week. I still want good attendance. So I'm not going to strike test every single class. Monday and Tuesday is prep class. This way we're going to do a mock stripe test. We're going to have the intensity. We can bark through the commands. We're not going to give a lot of feedback. They're proving to us that they know the material. So that's the whole idea about Monday and Tuesday. So they have to be there because they have to be prepped. Wednesday and Thursday, now is when they get their stripe. So the stripe is done right in the class. It's nothing really special that you're doing. You're going over the same material. You're just setting the atmosphere. Is that, guys, today is more than class. Today you're going to be evaluated on. Today you're going to have to bring your A game. You're going to have to show me you can handle this. You can do your techniques. I want to see the qualities of champion. I want to see you do your techniques with power, speed, or if it's week 1, hey, guys, I want to make sure that you have this memorized and you can follow by the numbers. So when we do the form, there's 10 steps. Now, when I do this, parents kind of smile because they know I try to set up their kids for success, especially if they're like white or yellow belts. If we're doing the technique I just said, back fist, reverse punch, roundhouse kick, I'll say to the kids, okay, before we do the test, just as a reminder, when I say 1, I don't want just a weak back fist. I want a strong back fist. Show me. And I say, when I say number 2, I want you to throw that reverse punch, but I want you to turn your shoulders and hips. I go 2. Now, okay, when you do number 3, 3 is the roundhouse kick. I want that chamber nice and high, full extension of the leg, drop down into a fighting stance. So before I say 1, 2, and 3, I tell them what I expect out of 1, 2, 3. So that's just a reminder. It's almost like I'm telling them the answer before I ask them the question. But I'm not going to do that with my upper belts. But again, my goal is to have as many students as possible pass their stripe test. If someone doesn't pass their stripe test, that's going to put them not only 3 months away from their next belt, they're going to be 6 months away from the belt because it's going to be thrown off cycle. So I want to do everything I can, not only to prep the kids, but again, with brand new kids that may be nervous, just starting to learn out, I want to do my best to coach them and make them look good. I used to tell the students that their responsibility on stripe test, I won't say this in front of the parents, but I would have the kids, they go, you know what's your responsibility today? Make your instructor look good. Okay, you guys got to make me look good. Your parents are watching you, and they're watching me. So when you do this 1, 2, 3, do me a favor, make me look real good. So if you teach 45-minute classes, I would assume the stripe test is 30 minutes. I always spend 5 minutes prepping people. I want to motivate them. I want to make sure that they know exactly what I'm looking for. I would say, okay, guys, it is stripe test. What am I looking for? The kid raise your hands. We got to be fast. Yeah, of course you got to be fast, man. This is martial arts. You got to be quick. Not only quick on your moves, but I want you to think quick and have good reaction time. What else am I looking for? And they go, power. Yeah, power's that's a martial artist. I mean, when someone hits it, you should be able to hurt you and stop an attacker. We have to have power. Power in our stances, power in our punches. I go, what else? We got to try our hardest. Yeah, right. You got to have pride. So you see what I'm doing? I'm asking them questions, and then I add whatever their answer is. So it's not just speed, because speed's different to everyone. I'm going to describe what speed is. I'm really painting that picture of a great martial artist to hopefully that I inspire them to try harder and harder and harder. And then I'll say, okay, I'm confused. That's the same thing I was looking for last month. What am I really looking for? And what I'm looking for is progress. Guys, you have power, you speed, you've got that. I saw it last month, but I'm looking for progress. And then I kind of do this. I said, I just want to cross the floor. Took me 36 steps to walk across the floor. There's 36 steps to black belt. So this is how much progress you're taking, and I would take a huge step. So, it's kind of building the anticipation and not only doing well in the stripe test, but what it really means. I put in a lot of punches. I put in a lot of push-ups. I did a lot of kicks. I did a lot of blocks. But what's really cool? I'm getting better at this. And when I'm getting better at something, going back to the very first slide, that's going to create more high interest. Now, if a student passes, which, I'm going to say right now that I'm looking for most of my students to pass, if not 100% of my students pass in the beginner phase. When I go to give the stripe, now the stripe can be a lot of things. It can be a piece of electrical tape. I know beltstripe.com has different color belts. They could be black stripes. The picture I used today, we use stripes that are the color of the next belt. So if you have a white belt, you're getting yellow stripes on your belt. If you're an orange belt, you're getting purple stripes. So that's totally up to you. There's no really secret into that. That's just your process. But when you give out the stripes, I like to go from student to student. That's why I have 15 minutes to do it. I kneel in front of the student, I put the stripe on him, and I say something good about him. Hey, David, I got to tell you how proud I am for you. You're looking really, really sharp. You have that good focus. And man, I said, I'm just so proud of how well you're doing in class and how much you share that with other kids in class. Go to the next kid, hey, looking good. Those stances, man, when you're in that horse stance, it almost looks like you're in a box. Go to the next kid. Man, how did you get so high in round kicks in that chamber? So I'm saying something different to each kid. So I'm trying to give personal attention, make them feel really, really special. It's really neat when you do this because you try to look in your students' eyes and then all of a sudden you catch the parents and the parents just got that smile on the face. So, we're doing something great for the kids at the same time, reinforcing what martial arts is doing for their child. So handing out the stripes is real important. I visited one school, after it was over, goes, okay, go to the front desk, and the front desk girl is going to put a stripe on your belt. That doesn't do anything. Kid gets their stripe, but it's not the same thing. After all the stripes are handed out, make sure that you congratulate the class. I would say something like, guys, you got a nice piece of electrical tape on your belt. Now, do you think you can just go in your dad's workshop and get a piece of electrical tape and put it on your belt? No, first that would be living a lie. And it's what the stripe means, not what the stripes are made of. The stripe means that you came to 8 classes this month. It means you did push-ups every class. It means a lot of progress, a lot of sweat came out of your head. It means that you did over 100 kicks. It means 100 punches, 100 blocks. Man, you worked hard for this. When you go home, you should be floating home, man. You shouldn't be walking home. That's how good you should feel. So pre-frame the class, do the test, make it special with the kids stripe by stripe, and then give them a group praise at the end. I know I like to, and I see a lot of other school owners that like to, okay, guys, before you leave today, I want you to run over and give your mom a big hug and say thank you. And so now you've got that in it too. So it's just a massive amount of impact with a little bit of work. Now, if a student should pass, so in other words, you're doing the stripe test, you got one kid who just freaks out and he's just standing there and he obviously doesn't know what's going on. I would go over to that student and I'd go, hey, David, looking good. I said, I'm so glad you came today. Before I give you stripe, I got to see one more thing. So after class, can you come over and see me? And then we'll talk about that stripe. I don't want to come to some kids and go, hey, you didn't earn it. Sorry. I've seen too many stripe tests get ruined when one kid starts freaking out and crying. So overcome that crying process. I know it's a sad time for the kid. I also know that I don't want to give it to him because he doesn't deserve it. So I just say I'm not going to give it to the end of class. End of class, I got to say a couple things. We're good with that. He goes, all right, we're good. I high five him, and everything's fine. Now, as a school owner, I look at Sal Convento. He doesn't teach all his class. He teaches black belt classes. I could see myself or him sitting at class and watching stripe test. Now, if I see several of my students not doing well in the stripe test, that's my program. So in other words, if I have 10 kids, 4 kids don't pass the stripe test, I don't really think that's the kid's fault. I mean, do I have 4 kids that are really bad at half my class? That's probably the program. It's the material, the way the material is presented. If I had 1 or 2 people, I would talk to the instructors. I'd make sure the instructors knew their standard. And I used to sit in front of my instructors. I go, guys, this month I want everyone to pass their stripe test. And they would kind of snicker, a couple of them. And they go, yeah, so we just give it to them? I go, no, I didn't say that. I say, as instructors, I want you watching every single student, every single class. I want you to have a critical eye. If you see a student who's not keeping up, having a problem, I expect you to give them extra help. You can videotape the move. You can assign them a mentor. You can assign them a leadership member. But I expect you to watch every once in class throughout the month. If you do your job, everyone's be passing stripe testing. Now, again, this doesn't account for that kid who just freezes or whatever. I said, it's all right if you want to fail someone. It's all right if you fail them. But if you fail someone, after you give them a second chance at the end of class, I want you to talk to them and the parents in the office. Tell the parents exactly what happened. Maybe it's that I feel your child just panicked today, or for some reason he didn't do this. So this is my remedy. And you give your child a private class next Monday. We're going to go over this material. Next Wednesday, I'll set a time after class. We'll do a makeup stripe test. What I was trying to do here as an owner is to put a lot of pain on instructors for failing people. In other words, it was much easier watching them in class, giving them extra help, than failing them on the test. Because if I fail them at the test, I got to meet with them privately. I got to explain to the parents why I didn't pass them. I've got to explain to the parents how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to do private classes to fix it, and then I'm going to retest. So there's a lot of work if someone doesn't pass the test. So that was my way of putting a leverage on my instructors, so my instructors did a real good job day after day in class, making sure everyone was ready. So that is the system for stripe testing. I gave you options on different things so you can kind of tailor to your situation. When you have a system, I think it's really important that you put it down in writing like this, and you talk to your staff, so you share it with the staff. Your staff should know it so well that if you ask them to train their replacement, they could train their replacement. That would be a system. You put the system together, you train the staff staff understands it. You as the instructor are watching stripe tests every single month, Anytime there's a challenge or need of improvement or something that has to be drilled and rehearsed, we're going to make sure that's done. After 6 months, your staff should know this by heart. They should be in a position where I know this so well that if I was going to leave the school here and they asked me to replace myself, I could train someone else. Good understanding, guys? Need some clarification? Oh, Mr. Siokas is here, Vice President of Black Girls Schools International. How you doing,
Hello,
sir?
hello. Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very good, thanks. I was telling people yesterday, let me stop recording this right now.